Somebody said the difference between this show and the one going against Candace Owens.
Night walkers at the point.
But
This is 6 years old.
Night walkers at the point.
But I don't understand how you think that we're almost losing America and there's a battle for America.
I
Like,
really
what
feel
way?
that, like, just in every regard, in terms of just the people that were running, like Hillary Clinton. Like, this woman was a globalist. Like, just think about who we were in bed with, like Saudi Arabia, selling all of our uranium to Russia. Like Trump came in.
Oh my God, all the old Hillary memes.
It was like, no, like America, people, we were the gap, like we're losing the middle class. The gap between the rich and the poor was like literally.
And what do you think is causing that?
Policies, shipping all of our jobs overseas, the regulation, the government getting bigger and bigger. You can't do anything as an entrepreneur in America without a piece of paper from the government, discouraging people with a piece of paper, like shutting down the factories, forgetting that there's something, there's a little land between New York and LA, believe it or not. Like, and this is what Trump understood. We were losing that. And Trump appealed to those people. I'm still floored. Like, as I'm traveling the world and seeing different pieces of the country, I'm learning how ignorant I was. Like, and that's the best thing in the entire world.
Way?
Just, I fell victim to the idea that, like, it was progress. We have to care about the environment. It was progress. And it's like, no, like, we've been losing. America has been losing. And Donald Trump understood that in a way that I didn't. And
You
I
don't
thought,
think we have to care about the environment? Like,
no, not even a little bit. Like,
Not even a little bit?
no. Okay, let me clarify this. I don't throw trash on the ground. Like, I'm not saying like we need to trash the environment. Like, but do I believe in climate change? No.
You don't believe in climate change?
Well, I think the climate always changes, I guess is what I say. Do I believe that this is like, an issue that is being, that is global warming, which they've changed conveniently. They got rid of the word when scientists started disproving it. Now they only say climate change.
Wow.
No, I think that was just a way to extract dollars from Americans. I don't at all.
Wow.
They had no actionable plan. It was great for Trump to get out of that deal. It was terrible.
Okay, but this is an incredibly complicated subject.
Right.
And if you would have to talk to a bunch of different scientists
Right.
and see how they gather data and see what they understand about CO2 levels and what's the danger of them
Right.
and what can combat it and what cannot. Have you done all this, or
No,
do you
so I
take
think-
this flippant opinion based
Listen,
on the party line?
this wouldn't be the hill I died on, right? But it's not about the party. I just genuinely, I've read a ton about it, but
What
I would
have
not
you
be
read?
able to. I would not be able to come to you and say, like, this is my strong opinion. But here's like the easiest way to say this, right?
Okay.
The fact that there is a disparity in the science community about whether or not it's real is enough to.
Very little,
Yep.
very little disparity. Most scientists, the vast majority, agree that human beings are negatively affecting climate change.
Yeah.
The vast majority.
Yeah, I just don't think so.
So you think that the very few scientists that disagree with the
Yeah.
consensus are the ones that are correct?
Well, I think if something is, it's either subjective or it's objective, and there are objective truths, right? But it's subjective if you're saying that there are some. I don't think there's very little. There are some that don't get paid to go on TV. There's some that are not Bill Nye, who are not funded scientists, and that has been a whole.
Well, Bill Nye's not a scientist. He's not. He's
It broke my heart when I
a
found out.
science
Mouthpiece.
propagandist.
Yeah, that's the point.
He's a
And-
science. No, that's not a good word.
I don't think Al Gore is a
propaganda,
scientist.
He's not.
Right.
But Bill Nye is like a science
Educator.
influencer or
Right.
a science entertainer.
Yeah, he's like
But
a-
he doesn't have a
like-
background in actual science. He's not a scientist. He
Right.
doesn't have a PhD. He's got an
I learned about him in
undergraduate-
school. Everything in
Yeah.
science had to do with Bill Nye.
Well,
science,
he
yeah.
promotes science, and
Right.
science is not bad.
Yeah.
But the real problem is with climate change is that, for sure, there has been ups and downs throughout the history of this planet. They're observable. They follow them in. I mean, it was one of the subjects that I had earlier today with Dr. Robert Schock. In 2014, the vast majority, 87% of scientists, said that human activity is driving global warming, yet only half the American public ascribe to that view. So,
Well, what website is this?
87%, and this is
Scientific American.
yeah.
Yeah, .com though, like 'cause that means it's making money. I don't trust that.
Oh, wait. We've watched this before. We've heard her say that before, right? Haven't we? I feel like I remember this. Not a .com.
7%, and this is
Scientific American.
yeah.
Yeah, .com though, like 'cause that means it's making money. I don't trust that. If it was a .org, I would probably take that. But this is just a random website, and
Well,
I don't trust
Scientific
it.
American is not necessarily a random website. It's,
Yeah, I don't believe this like at all. Just so you know.
You don't
Okay.
believe it like at all?
I genuinely don't believe it. I know you do, but I genuinely don't believe it.
I
Like,
believe most of the
87%?
time the consensus of scientists that are studying the data.
Right.
And so what they're doing is
But do you
studying.
remember all of the stories that came out about the scientists that said that when they tried to present their evidence to show, like they were basically just getting shut down at every corner? You can pull that up too. Like
do you
scientists who
mean?
look up the opposite, right? Instead of looking for what
Well,
you're
wait a
searching for,
minute,
look for what
why-
you're not looking for.
I didn't search for it. That's what I found when I
Oh,
searched it.
sorry. But yeah, look up.
But
look
this
up-
is my question.
yeah.
Why are you so sure? This is an
No, because what you just
extremely,
said- because
but
what you
this is
just
an
said-
extremely
Yeah.
complicated subject.
And it is. I said I am not so sure that I would die on the hill for it.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion right now, and is just that it was a means, because forget the fact of whether you believe global warming is real. Let's say it's 100% real. Let's say we know fact it's real. Is there a way?
Well, let's just be clear.
Yeah.
Global warming, climate change is definitely real. It's happening.
Well,
the question
but
is
it's
why
always
is it happening?
happened.
Yes, it has always
So
happened.
what is the
The real-
climate change? Yes, the climate changes. It was different weather yesterday than it was today.
my
The
God.
climate is forever changing. Like that's the
That's
problem.
not weather is not climate, but
Is that people are making it seem like that's something weird.
No,
it's
no,
not
that's
unique.
not. You're misrepresenting the issue. The issue is people think that human beings are exacerbating climate
Right.
change to the point where there's a tipping point. We cross over that tipping
Right.
point. We're going to deal with huge problems that could be corrected if we act now and put a lot of funding into climate control.
Okay.
And this is what Howard Bloom was on talking about a few days ago. He was talking about that the real future involves the technology of climate control, and that what we have to be really careful of is letting it get too far where you can't ever stop it and pull it back. This is what scientists are
Right.
warning about. This is why they want emission standards. This is why they want to figure out how to get people to be aware of the fact that this is a real issue. Now,
Okay.
irregardless, human beings, if they never existed, the Earth has constantly gone through cycles. The question is not whether or not the Earth has gone through cycles of cooling and warming.
Right.
The question is, are we exacerbating that?
how does he understand this with so much nuance now, right? Remember before with Jordan Peterson, he was like, yeah, or I don't know if I remember if it was with I don't know if it was with Jordan, or I'm sorry, I don't know if Jordan said this or if Joe said this, but he was like, yeah, we're actually in the middle of a cooling period, or we need more carbon right now. We don't have enough, or like, this is true. The Earth goes through cycles. The question isn't, it's exactly as he just said. And it was even said quite eloquently. The issue isn't whether or not we're in a cooling phase or a warming phase. The issue is human activity exacerbating whatever phase we're on in a dramatic sense? That's the question. That's true, and that's understood with a level of nuance even that I...
Human beings, if they never existed, the Earth has constantly gone through cycles. The question is not whether or not the Earth has gone through cycles of cooling and warming.
Right.
The question is, are we exacerbating that? The vast majority of scientists say we are.
Okay.
Now, this could negatively impact all sorts of coastal cities. This could be a gigantic problem. This is not like propaganda that's drummed up by some sort of big business that seeks to make money off of this, or some sort of a
Well, they were making money off of it.
Al Gore might have made some money off
No,
of
but
it.
like
Who's
the
making money
agreement that
off
we
of it?
were in, they were that was like the amount of money that America was losing. But here's what I was going to ask you.
Oh my
so
God.
let's
Wait a minute, the amount of money America was losing? Who's
in
America?
the Paris Agreement. This is the reason why we wanted to get out of the Paris Agreement. But that's what I wanted to get to. So let's say we all
arguments about
agree
the
that
Paris
global
Agreement.
warming is real. I don't believe it's real. Okay, so I can't
But
sit
why?
here.
But
But
here's the
I
question.
can't.
But why have a belief?
What do you mean?
Why have a belief as to whether or not global warming is real or not real?
Because
If
I
you
just
don't have a
find that
background
when
in it,
things
you don't
you're
understand the
correct.
science.
You're correct.
But why have a belief in it?
Right. So it's not a belief. It's not a belief in it. I don't believe in it. I
But that's
don't.
what
It's
I'm
not a
saying.
belief.
But you have a belief that it doesn't exist.
Right. I personally think that this was just the fact that it was presented to us by Al Gore, and
It's not presented to us just by Al Gore.
Right.
Al Gore made a film,
Right.
and he's been called like the first green billionaire.
Yeah.
How does he... It's such a level of nuance. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Made a shitload of money off of that.
and he flies in his private plane because he's so worried about the emissions. Okay.
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
There's something hilarious about that.
All
but-
of the people that are
but
telling
he's
us.
a fucking politician.
Right.
There's grossness to all that stuff.
Right. And that's what worries me. So my question is, let's say that it's real.
Okay.
Let's just assume, like that's the best way to
Let's
have
say
it
it's
to be.
real.
Let's say it's 100%
Okay.
real. Do you feel that you have found in your research that there is something that human beings can do that would change this all around?
It's possible, yes. One of the things that they're figuring out how to pull carbon out of the atmosphere and even possibly reuse it. There's all sorts of things that people are trying to do. I mean, we had what was the young man who made that device?
Boyan
Slot. He figured out a way to make this device that pulls plastic out of the oceans. They're figuring out a way.
That's important.
Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
of.
well, because plastic just can't over time. But that's what I mean. Like, so when I say that I'm
I like how she has to do the plastic thing. I'm guessing, even 6 years ago, people were obsessing over the microplastics stuff. So the plastic thing she has to believe in because microplastics in your balls or whatever. But the climate shit is cocked and lame. But yeah,
believe in recycling. Like I'm not like a person that's like this is. But the idea that the government is just going to take trillions of dollars because we're in some agreement where we're all agreeing that we should do something is useless. And look, from the stuff like there's obviously a lot of debate here. And as I said, like I'm not so. The one thing you always find with me is I'll never pretend to be so educated on something. Like I'm not going on college campuses talking about global warming. I don't do that.
Right, but why are you saying that you don't think it exists,
I just.
But she'll say
I
it
don't
on
know.
Joe
Maybe because it
Rogan's
got
show?
maybe
Studies-
because it got so politicized.
Studies into scientific agreement on human-caused global warming, and look at all the studies. It's between 100% and 91% at the lowest. 91% of one of the studies from 2014.
This is the Union of Concerned Scientists.
Yeah, they almost. It's a pretty broad
Right.
consensus.
Who are they?
oh my
polling?
God.
Is it the people that are
Scientists?
part of this?
That's a good question.
That's what I'm asking. It's just numbers can be.
306 scientists to confirm over 97% of climate scientists agree, and over 97% of the scientific articles find that global warming is real and largely caused by humans. So my question to you is, if you want to step outside of the scientific consensus,
Right.
which is vast and involves 10,306 scientists, and just say, I don't believe in it,
Yeah.
even if you're right, you don't have enough information to say that.
Right. No,
you might
but
be
that's why I
correct,
said that's the
but
whole
you're
point.
saying you don't believe
I
it.
don't. Yeah, I would have to have someone sit down and convince me that it was real. I personally don't believe it. That's okay.
But why?
It's good to start at a
here's the
place of
thing.
not believing something.
No, it's not.
You think you should start with believing everything?
No, it's not believe either or. Not believe yes, not believe no.
Yeah.
But don't say you don't believe.
Yeah.
Learn about it.
Yeah.
Learn about it and then have an opinion. But you're stating this opinion without having any real understanding of
Right.
what climate
well,
science
yeah,
is.
but that's exactly what an opinion is. I'm not going. Like I said, if
Listen to how different also, right? Notice that this is hearkening back to something that we just saw a few days ago about the are you an expert thing. Now, or in this time, Joe Rogan was very concerned with expertise and credentials, right? You don't know anything about this. Why would you even have an opinion on this? Why would you have any belief whatsoever or publicize it if you're not studied on this at all? Like, you need to talk to a variety of experts. But then with like Dave Smith, it's just like epic and who cares if you know anything at all or whatever is, who cares? Like, yeah.
If you said that, Candace, you went on to 10,000 college campuses and you said that global warming wasn't real, then we'd have a problem. You and I just having a conversation.
Yeah, but why have an opinion on something that you don't have data about? This is
Right.
my question. Like,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have an opinion on
Right.
climate science. I really don't,
Yeah.
because I don't know much about it. But what I do know
yeah.
is that what I've read is that the vast majority of people who study it are in agreement that human beings are affecting
So
it.
I just my recall on a lot of things that I read, and this was a while ago. So this is what.
Imagine how much different the country would be if we would have kept this Joe Rogan through COVID. Like, holy fuck.
Right, when I first formed my opinion on not believing this, I read a shit ton of articles. Can't recall the data because, like I said, this wasn't something I was super passionate about. It was like somebody posted something, and then I went on like a tear reading about it. But it was essentially just noting that in a lot of these studies, like when you go and if we had time to sit down and really pull this up, they're polling, 10,000 scientists that are within a community that is like these .orgs. Do you believe in everything that MediaMatters.org puts out for statistics? Right, that's a political arm of the Democratic
Talking
Party.
about a different subject.
I know, but
Media Matters is not a scientific research institution, but like it's a totally different thing. I don't know Media Matters institution, but like I'm guessing it's a totally different thing. Like,
but I know, but I'm just
politics versus science.
Also, wait, I thought .orgs meant it was real science. Are we changing our mind now? So not all .orgs are real science.
But this has been politicized. That's the thing.
Science has been politicized.
Yes, it has. Global warming in particular has been politicized. 100% it has been politicized. Right? That's the whole reason I fell down this dark hole one night reading about it. And I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't really care.
It has been politicized, but I think that's also maybe why you're saying you don't agree with it so quickly.
Right.
Because it's an ideological right-wing point.
Right.
Is that global warming isn't real.
Right.
If you're one of those people.
Like, he's even, like, this is such a surprising level of nuance. He's even capable of saying, like, what did he say before? You could be right, but you still shouldn't speak on it because you don't even know if you're right. You don't even have information to say. Or, yeah, maybe it is politicized and some people are assholes about it. That doesn't mean we should automatically just reject everything about it, right? Like,
people that think global warming isn't real, you're almost always on the right.
Right. And that's fine. But I'm telling you that, like, again, I didn't do a deep dive on all of this because I read about it because it was at a forefront of discussion. So I read about it all night. And my conclusion was that they started pulling up all of these studies from the person that, did this that I did a deep dive on. And they started showing how, like, these community of scientists were, in fact, somewhere behind that .org, someone that was being funded. So to me, the issue got too politicized for me to believe that global warming was something that was going to wipe out the world. Now,
scientists get funded. That is a fact.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that the funding affects the scientific research and the data, which they all agree on. And this is universally across.
Oh my God! Like, he even understands that? How does he know this? Wait, how did Joe Rogan actually understand, like, scientific funding? This is true. You do get funded by a variety of sources. Just because you get funded by a thing doesn't mean that thing dictates your opinions, though. And I wonder if he's even said this recently. People will point out that, like, why would I trust pharmaceuticals when they fund all their own research? No fucking shit, they fund all their own research. Who else is going to fund studies on the efficacy or the safety of pharmaceuticals? That's like the whole thing about what phase 1, 2, 3 and trials are for. Like, we're not going to fund it. It's $1 billion per drug. Just because somebody's funding the research doesn't mean that the research is bad, right? You've got that's the whole point of peer review, and that's the whole point of publications and replicating shit and tracking data and everything else. Like,
across the entire planet, thousands and thousands of scientists would not stake their reputation on false data. What they're saying is not affects the scientific research and the data, which they all agree on. And this is universally across the entire planet. Thousands and thousands of scientists would not stake their reputation on false data. What they're saying is not that the only reason why the world is getting warm is because human beings. That the only reason why the climate isn't totally static for the rest of eternity is because of human beings. What they're saying is we are negatively impacting our own environment, and we're doing it because we have poor technology and we use coal and fossil fuels and emissions, and we're raising our CO2 levels. And this is based on data. And this is something that you can look at. You can look at the data and follow where they're getting this information from, and follow how they're making these conclusions, and follow the vast majority of these brilliant people who study this shit their whole life.
Yeah, exactly. And if I was a person that was putting forth policy on climate change, or if I was a person that put out my opinion publicly on climate change, I would do all of that. I'm just not. So I'll
just say whatever the fuck. When people say shit like this, they should be instantly disqualified in everybody's mind. Like, hold on. So you're admitting that if you were in charge of doing policy, unless you do some research, you're admitting you've done no research whatsoever. You're admitting you have no strong opinion at all because you haven't done any homework whatsoever. Then why the fuck are you even talking about this?
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that you're a very smart person, and people listen to you, and they're going to listen to you for a long time.
But this is what I hate. This is what I hate.
But hold on,
this
is
what I hate, because now I've got to be responsible for my audience. Oh my God.
You have to have a formed opinion on everything.
No, you don't have to have a formed opinion on everything.
Look at the nuance. He's going to say you don't have to have an opinion on everything, but if you don't know anything about a subject, just don't profess a belief on it. You don't have to have a belief on climate change. Just don't talk about it.
What you do have to have is the ability to know when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
But I just said that. I said that to you the entire time. I said this would. I said I don't believe it. And then you asked me, and I said this wouldn't be the hill I chose to die on because I don't.
But why even say you don't believe in it?
Because I just personally, if you
how about not have a belief until you really
okay, so you would prefer if my language, as opposed to admitting that I do not know this, I wouldn't die until I've never made a public statement. You would have preferred if I had just started by saying I have no opinion.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. You say,
dude, I wish we could bring this Joe Rogan back from the grave. Holy fuck. Like, MMA background, super popular figure, brought in a whole bunch of people for his podcast, but was like generalized. This isn't even like responsible pushback. This is really good, really well thought out pushback on a person that 6 years ago, I don't know if I would have talked to her or not. I don't even know how big she was 6 years ago. Because conspiracy theorists are just they were too spooky for me before I hopped on that Vyvanse train. They were too scary for me to tango with. He's doing a really good job here, though.
I mean, you would have preferred if I had just started by saying I have no opinion.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You say
But I said I didn't know.
No, you say I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it. You're saying really clearly that you don't think it's real.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it would be the same if I said to you, like, do you believe in God, right?
No, I would say I don't know.
You would say so. I feel like this is sort of like linguistics, though.
No, I would say I don't know.
Okay.
I always say I don't know. I'm agnostic.
Most people say like I believe it or I don't, right? So it's like if you say
I think a lot of people say they don't know.
Okay, I think believe is definitely word that's associated with God. But
Right,
so
but a lot of
if
people
I
say
say
that
like
they
this,
don't
but if
know
you
if
say
they
I
believe
don't
in
believe in
God.
God, and then somebody starts saying, oh, you need to formulate it, it's like I just don't believe in it.
No, you don't, because God is not scientific data.
Right.
There's a big difference between measuring the CO2 levels in the atmosphere and deciding whether or not there's an afterlife.
Right. I'm sorry that I just don't believe in global warming. I'm happy to.
You're allowed to not believe in it.
That's all I've been trying to say. I don't believe in it. But I have not.
You're an influencer.
Yeah, but
and you're a very bright person.
But if somebody had asked me, like at a place where I'm influencing on a college campus, what's your
What are you doing right now? Why is a college campus with a couple thousand people listening, if that, why does that count as influence? But on the Joe Rogan show with hundreds of thousands, millions of people listening, this isn't influential. What? 7.1 million views.
opinion? I would say I have none.
I bet you would say I don't believe in it, like you just did.
That is absolutely not.
But you
that's
just
not
did
true. There are so many instances where you could watch it. Just like, and you can ask Dave Rubin when he asks me a question, I say I don't have an opinion on it.
About a different subject,
But yeah,
perhaps.
because you and I are having a conversation one on one. I'm not sitting here to try to. I don't go on campus talking about global warming because I don't have an opinion on it. But
Okay.
if you press me and ask me if I believe in it, no, I don't really believe in it. But could I go deep dive and learn that perhaps I'm wrong? Sure. I personally am inclined to believe that a lot of those studies are manipulated. As I said, during the one night that I did deep dive on it, when they showed like all of the pieces of evidence, or whatever, it just seemed a little shady, and I felt that it was politicized. But I think that I have a right to say that I don't believe in something, but that I also don't know, and that's what I said to you. I don't believe in it, but I wouldn't die on this hill. I don't know enough about it.
You did say you wouldn't die on this hill.
Yeah.
But you also said you don't believe in it, and you stated the reason why, because you think it's a scam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the truth. What do you want me to do? I'm going to lie to you?
No, it's okay, but I'm not
sitting
think
here
it's a
saying
complicated issue. It's
but
very, very
it may be complicated. That's fine. But what do you want me to lie to you and
No,
say
I
I'm
just
not a
think-
politician? You want me to? You
No.
should the correct term. Like I feel like this is like the editing people do. Like when they're like, oh, Obama, if you ask a question, you don't know. This is I'm not running for office. I'm answering.
Right.
I'm talking to you. I don't believe in it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I can't be fake. This
I'm
is my
not
number
asking
one
you.
problem in life is I can't be fake. And I know that
Oh
you're
my
pressing me here and that you
God.
want me to adjust and to say like I do not have an opinion but I'm not like a politician. I'm telling you I don't believe in it. Could I change my perspective and
Listen,
believe in
if
it
you're
a
just
year
a
after I
regular
read stuff?
person, if you're just a regular person, you said I don't believe in it, I'd probably go, all right. The problem is you're not. You're a very influential person.
But I'm aware when I'm on stage, when I'm on my YouTube channel, there's no videos of Candace Owens talking about global warming. I'm aware of that.
There is now.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's going to be Joe Rogan and Candace going over. Exactly.
And people are going to be mad at me.
It's weird 'cause
You're fucking
yeah,
global warming shill. Global warming's
You know what's
fake.
funny though is that like this feels so like we're not on the internet right now. That's like I still
know,
don't
it's
feel
a
like we're on the
problem.
internet. This is the problem. Yeah. But like if you and I were on a college campus, I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I don't have informed my discussion.
I don't
opinion
know
on it.
jack shit about global warming. I
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah.
I think the real fear is not even global warming. The real fear is global cooling. The ice age is the most terrifying thing that can happen to human beings.
Yeah.
When that shit happens, everybody dies.
Yeah, I know.
Global warming, you just move inland.
Yeah, I think that the real thing that
Get a
people
good
are
air
concerned
conditioner.
about is like just beyond any of that stuff. I don't know. I think that there's like more concerns in society. Like I personally think that some scientists started talking about global warming and it got politicized and they figured it was another way to extract human beings' money because of fear. That's my opinion.
I
okay?
think there's probably some truth to that. There's
And then they said
definitely
we're going to find
people-
our core scientists that agree with everything we say. This has proven that Harvard studies have been incorrect because they were being funded by certain political interest groups. So I'm not
Harvard
inclined to
studies
pull up
on
something
what?
on I'm blanking. It'll come back to me in a second. But there were Harvard papers that have been funded by certain researchers that are trying to get a certain political position out, and it causes mass fear. And people are willing to spend their money a certain
It's
way.
entirely possible.
It is, but it's
People
real.
are
That's very
flawed.
real. People are flawed. So I'm
Yeah.
not inclined when someone pulls up an article and says, "Look, 10,000 scientists." I err on the side of, okay, I don't know those scientists are. I don't know what this organization is funded by. So I'm going to stick by my guns and say I don't really believe in it yet. Now, if I decide that I'm going to run for office and I've got to make a decision on the atmosphere and what we're going to do about global warming and CO2 emissions, you better believe I will be fully ready to discuss it. I'm not going to make a YouTube video and just know the outskirts of it. I don't do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you and I are having a discussion, sorry, I don't believe in it. Like I don't know what to say.
I would say
open to
again-
learning.
Okay.
Open to learning. I'm
Okay.
always open to learning. I've been wrong before. I was a liberal 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. So that's not a problem. I'm open to learning, but I'm not gonna say something that feels inauthentic. And what I wanted to say there was I don't believe in it.
It's just one of those things that it's a real right-wing talking point.
That's a low human capital problem. True.
Idea. If you want to play house with a woman at some point in your life, you better get that right. It's a very serious game. What's the first rule? She has to want to play. Right. What's the second rule? You have to play with her in a manner that makes her want to play with you again. Right. I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of what constitutes objective standards of morality. You know how Sam Harris was obsessed with malevolence, and he wanted to ground morality in objective science because he thought that would give us a firm standing place. But he went down the wrong scientific rabbit hole, I think. I think if you understand this relationship with play and iteration, then you have the core of morality. So and Piaget, by the way, this is part of, what would you say? This is the philosophical edge of his theory. This is actually what he's trying to accomplish. How do you decide if an arrangement is good versus bad or good versus evil? Well, Piaget went to children to find that out. It's like, okay, you want to set up a game. Why? Well, a game is it's the foundation of social interaction, right? You play a game with one other one other person, and then maybe you can play a game with a bunch of people, and then you can play a game with one person or a bunch of people across a long period of time, and then you can do it in a way that improves. Okay, so what are the rules? If you're a little boy, she has to want to play. And then you have to play with her in a way so that she wants to play with you again. If you do that, then you have a friend. and that iterates. Now, so you can imagine that there's a structure of voluntary play that's really quite stringent, but this is what you do on your podcast. Seriously, and that's why it's so attractive to people. And that's the core of what you might call objective morality.
Wow.
It's like there's a very limited number of ways to play, to offer a game that someone else wants to play, and then there's a very limited number of ways to play that game so that they want to keep playing with you. And then you could, if you add that additional constraint of improvement across the games, you've got the straight and narrow path.
That's crazy.
And then it's marked by, we're really trying to do this at ARC. We want to offer a vision that people want to accept, or even thrilled to accept, because that's even better, right? A game that you'd be thrilled to play. So one of the things we're doing on the energy side, I'm going to an event with Alex Epstein here in 2 days, talk to energy executives about this. Well, what kind of world do you want to see? Well, how about a world where there's so much energy that poor people can afford it? How'd that be for a vision? Like, have you got a problem with that? Well, poor people can't have energy because that'll destroy the planet. It's like, no,
that's exactly
poor people can't have that energy because you'd have to let go of the game that you're playing as a narcissistic psychopath that's elevating your status inappropriately, and you're perfectly willing to sacrifice the world's poor to continue your grip on power. How about that for a psychological interpretation?
Right.
And how about this as an alternative? Why don't we do everything we can to drive energy costs down to the lowest degree that's sustainable, like in a market economy, and make energy available to everyone so that we eradicate absolute poverty?
Wow.
Why wouldn't the left line up again around that? Because the left hypothetically serves the poor. It's like nothing serves the poor better than an ethos first. We've got to get that right because we're also interested in getting the story right. But after that, on the material side, there's nothing more important than
But can I
cheap
stop
energy.
you for a second there? I don't think people on the left are getting that message. I don't think they're hearing that this is exactly what third world countries need, is a reliable source of energy and industry to elevate themselves out of poverty.
They're not.
They're not getting that, but it's not the problem of the people that are on the left, like the general followers.
Well, it might be a problem that's facilitated by the psychopathic fringe types. Like, look, I think
It's not offered to them, is my point.
Yeah, the question is why not? And the reason is, like, this is part of the. You talked to Lomberg, right? To Bjorn. And Bjorn's pretty good on this, or very good on this, I should say.
Yes.
To give him credit. And he would like to see a world where, and he's part of ARC, he'd like to see a world where we make energy abundance a top priority.
It's probably the only way you're going to pull third world countries out of dire poverty.
Well, it's also, as far as I can tell, the only way that you pull them out of environmental catastrophe.
Right.
Because if you want to produce an environmental catastrophe, a true environmental catastrophe, how about a 3 or 4 year famine? So that everyone there kills all the animals, for example, or dies. Right. So we also know
Bet you
that if
wouldn't
you
like
get
that,
people above
libs.
$5,000 a year GDP, then they start paying attention to long-term environmental sustainability because they
No,
don't
I
have to
didn't mean to do
scrabble
that.
around in the dirt for their next meal. So then we could say, well, how about we have a future of sufficient abundance so that
It doesn't
no
matter.
one is
Okay.
deprived of energy or opportunity for their children.
Right.
Well, that sounds like an invitation. Now, if you hate people and you think the industrial enterprise is a stain on the planet and
Yes.
that we're viruses or
That's what we do.
cancer
We hate
on the
people,
planet,
yes.
then you're going to have a problem with that. But my sense, too, is that if we had enough energy, we could make all the deserts bloom.
I was watching a video on pollution in India about the amount of garbage that gets thrown in rivers in India. And it was
So funny that they're talking about pollution in India and how bad pollution in India is. But that NASA thing that they brought up earlier, neither of them have read it, right? Because in the NASA thing we read earlier, the major greening contributors were China and India. Interesting how that works, huh?
staggering, just staggering to watch that somehow or another because the population is so large and there's so many poor people and there's a lack of hope, whatever it is, they're just throwing their garbage in the rivers, and the rivers are just overwhelmed with garbage. If there's ever like a symbol of people that have been led the wrong way, like bad leadership, bad planning,
Bad underlying story.
everything. That's it. When you look in your river and it's all you see is water bottles, all you see is floating plastic. That's the whole river, and you know that if you get in that water, you're going to get sick.
You can't start a carbon
And
gas?
yet, no one looks at it as this number one priority. Like, what do you always say? Clean your room, make your bed. Like, right? Yeah. What's going on? Like,
It's crazy.
Well, and you want to incentivize people to pay attention to their local environment, and you do that in part by ensuring that they're not living.
okay, clean your room, make your bed. Like, right? Yeah. What's going on? Like,
Well, and you want to incentivize people to pay attention to their local environment, and you do that in part by ensuring that they're not living so close to the edge of catastrophe that they can only think about today.
Right.
And if you start from the mindset that, can I tell you another story?
Yeah, go ahead. We
you
love
tell
them.
me all the stories. I have to ask
Yeah, dude.
questions.
We
All right.
love you.
This is a really cool story.
Okay.
This is how to set the world right, this story.
Okay.
So I've been traveling around lecturing about my book, and I wrote a chapter on Abraham in that book. And
for you,
Abraham
dude. Good for you.
is the father of in principle, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, right? He's the father of nations. That's how the story goes. So when God comes to Abraham in a very particular way, it's one of the ways God is characterized in the Old Testament. So this is like a definition of God, right? It's not a testament to God. It's a definition of what God is. Okay, so Abraham, he doesn't hear anything about God till he's like 70.
Jeez.
And he's already living in privileged paradise because his father and his mother are rich. And so he doesn't have to lift a finger. If life is about having your needs met, Abraham's got it covered. And so he lives like a satiated infant till he's 70. And then a voice comes to him. And it says, you are required by the God of your ancestors to leave your zone of comfort, to leave the wealth of your father, to leave your nation, to leave your language, to go out into the world and have your terrible adventure. And if you do that, so now imagine that's the call to adventure. If you do that, these things will happen. This is the covenant that God makes to the Abrahamic people. It's so cool. I just talked to Brett Weinstein about this from an evolutionary biological perspective on the road. Because I wanted him to evaluate the story I'm going to tell you from an evolutionary perspective. So God is the voice that says to Abraham, if you follow the call of adventure, you'll be a blessing to yourself. So that's the meaning of life, right? To have the adventure. You'll do this in a way.
Sorry.
Yeah, because the adventure is compelling. Responsible romantic adventure is the most compelling pathway, right? And if it's intense enough, it justifies the suffering, right? It's a reason to get up in the morning, even if you're in pain. Okay, then he says, there's another thing that'll happen too, which is that your name will become known among your people for valid reasons. So that's that genuine reputation that we talked about. So if you follow the pattern of adventure properly, you'll be a blessing to yourself, and your name will become known among your people for valid reasons.
Based.
So that's a good deal.
Yeah.
You'll do this in a way that will maximize the probability that you'll establish something of permanence, or even eternal permanence. So Abraham is offered, if he accepts the call and makes the proper sacrifices along the way, God says your descendants will outnumber the stars. So he establishes the pattern of fatherhood that best propagates down the generations, which is the same as following the pathway of adventure. Then he says, you'll do this in a way that will make sure no one can stand before you, right? So that if you adhere to that adventurous spirit and you propagate it, all enemies will either be converted into friends or flee before you.
Wow.
And then you'll do it in a way that brings abundance to everyone. And so now, Matt, this is the question I'd ask Brett. So imagine this. So imagine that we have an instinct in us, or a divine voice, I don't care which of those you use, an instinct within us that calls us to develop, right? That puts us on the edge. And that's not...
The right wing realized that they lost the culture war on pollution, so they pivoted towards critiquing the aesthetic of filth rather than the things that actually devolve into the worst consequences.
The same as looking for infantile satiation or the gratification of our needs. It's genuinely this call to expand yourself and to be on the edge and to develop. That if you did that, to follow that instinct, then you'd be a blessing to yourself. Your name would become known among your people. You'd establish something of permanent significance. No one could stand before you, and it would bring abundance to everyone. Right, and then in the Abrahamic story, what happens is that as Abraham accepts that, goes out in the world, and then he has a series of adventures, each of which requires a more complete sacrifice. Because as you develop, under the influence of this call, what you're required to do is to live more carefully in accordance with your expanding domain of opportunity. And that's the pathway forward. So I asked Brett about that, because this is different than the selfish gene idea, right? It's like there's an instinct within us that calls us to develop, that pulls us out into the world. And if we follow it religiously and we make the proper sacrifices along the way, then those 5 things will happen around us. And that speaks of a concordance, which has to be there, between the spirit that develops us and the pathway that brings maximal benefit to the natural and the social world. And I can't see how that can be the case. If we're adapted to the world, that has to be the case, right? It has to be that if we follow the instinct that would best put us together psychologically, this quest, this adventure, that would also be the spirit that set the world in order, right? And that spirit, that whole thing, that's what's defined as God in that particular story, right?
That's crazy, Chad.
Well, I can't see, the alternative is preposterous, right? The alternative is that we don't have an instinct to develop, and that's wrong. You just have to watch children, and that's wrong. You just have to watch yourself.
That's goofy, guys.
The curiosity that you have and the desire for novelty and for learning, that's there. That's what you followed to make this show, definitely. And so the alternative is that instinct doesn't exist. Well, that's a stupid theory. Or what brings you into the world is done at the expense of other people in a way that won't enhance your reputation, in a way that has nothing to do with anything permanent, right? Then it would be sort of you against the world. That would be like a power orientation. you can get your way in the world, but you have to manipulate, you have to lie, you have to use compulsion, you have to use fear. You can't just rely on the quest, say, or your adventure. And I think you can. I think you can. I think you better. Or else. There's that too.
Any children watchers in here?
Since you're talking about tyrants, right? And you're talking about people of extreme power and how that corrupts. And in that case, there's a large percentage of those people that are violating all those things that you said. Because they do manipulate and they do rely on fear. Like,
well, you know, Nietzsche was
What
an
did Nietzsche
advocate of the
say?
will to
Tell
power,
us.
right? So you can imagine that there's a variety of potential motivating forces, and one would be hedonic pleasure. That's the golden calf worshippers, by the way. So that's just short-term hedonism. And that doesn't work. And by work, I mean it doesn't iterate socially. It's like if it's all about you and what some women you wants now, first of all, that's not going to serve you well tomorrow. And I don't want to be anywhere near you.
True.
Like you're literally an overgrown 2-year-old.
True.
And that gets pretty ugly by the time you're 40.
Right.
So the whole golden calf thing,
3-year-olds
no, that's just
fucking
off the table.
huge
but isn't it kind
problem.
of celebrated amongst certain high achievers, particularly in the business world, like that hedonistic, sociopathic drive?
That's why a lot
to
of business
constantly
leaders
get
are
more numbers on the
sociopaths.
ledger.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's exactly hedonism.
Greed
I
is
think
good. That's Wall
yeah,
Street,
yeah.
right? That's Michael Douglas, right?
Yeah,
Greed
yeah.
is good.
Yeah, well, okay, let's delve into that for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm not advocating.
I know
for
you're
that, by
not.
the
I
way.
know you're not.
Why no? Why no?
You can turn to hedonism. You can fall into nihilism. You can turn to hedonism, or you can turn to power. Okay, this Abrahamic covenant, it's different than power. It's adventure. It's romantic adventure, actually. And that's not the only definition of God in the Old Testament, by the way. There's something deeper than that it refers to. So those are the options. Now, you said, don't the achievers, you know, who are stacking up numbers, it's like they found a way forward to attain status, but they've fixated on an element that shouldn't be fundamental. They're not trying to store up the treasure in heaven. They're trying to store up the treasure on earth, and that's better than not doing it. See, this is another thing we need to understand, because I've spent a lot of time, for example, trying to figure out why people are attracted to Andrew Tate. And I know why they're attracted to Andrew Tate.
Why?
They'd rather be Andrew Tate than an incel,
Oh,
And they're right.
True.
right? It's best to give the devil his due. Like if you had to choose between being kind of flabby and unhealthy and
You don't want to be that guy.
resentful and in your basement looking at pornography,
Damn.
hating
And
women
porn?
because all of them reject you all the time and you deserve it, and
jeez.
you're ineffectual and the future looks pretty damn gloomy, and then you see Andrew Tate, who's
a god.
tough and hyper masculine in an almost manner that's almost a parody, and wealthy and famous and apparently has women at his disposal with a fair bit of stress on the idea of disposal. You think, well, I'd much rather be him than me. That's the incorporation of the shadow from the Jungian perspective. It's like,
Jeez.
Yeah.
it's right.
And you think about the number of men that are incels.
That's crazy. We
The
don't
thing about men-
We have no idea what the number is, but it must be high.
Also, if they get rejected a lot, they associate women with pain.
Yeah.
And then they get angry at those women because those women cause them pain. Like, it's just very simple equation.
Okay, hold on. What's next? This is more. What do we got? 2 hours, 35 minutes.
Also, yeah.
This.
Yeah.
That's what's really crazy. And why is it that academia is overwhelmed by people like this? Is it because it's vulnerable to parasites?
Sure, why not? It was a storehouse of unguarded value. You know?
Without any religious principles.
Well, also, yeah, there's that too, and,
Yeah.
and with no real gatekeepers. you know?
Right, right,
So,
right.
like the parasite problem is a very deep problem. So I can.
Wait, is it possible to get enough calcite from your space platform that you don't have to ship it in from Vulcanus just by crushing ice, or is that impossible? Is that unrealistic?
Maybe I can even give you an example of that. This is a hard one, but I'll try. In the Pinocchio movie, this also happens in Jonah, the story
Yes,
of
it is.
Jonah.
Okay.
Remember, Geppetto ends up in a whale.
What?
It's like, what the hell? There's no explanation for that in the story. It's like he's out looking for Pinocchio, and now
he's
he's
just in a
whale.
fucking
Well,
whale.
a whale is a giant carcass, right? And so when something dies, its spirit, what would you say? Its spirit is then embedded in a carcass. That's a good way of thinking
Like, what the hell? True.
about it. That's why Pinocchio has to go into the belly of the whale to free Geppetto and finish his transformation. Is that when things deteriorate, right, you have these carcasses lying around with their dead spirits. The spirit of what gave rise to them is still inside there.
Jesus.
And the job is to go into the carcass and to revitalize the spirit that produced it and not to parasitize it.
Crazy.
Right.
Boy, I don't know how you got that out of Pinocchio and the whale.
Well, it's
You're
You're just not thinking on his level.
Wow.
You're not thinking on his level, Joe.
Geppetto ends up languishing in the whale.
Right.
Right? So imagine that there's a spirit in the universities that gave rise to these great storehouses of value. And that spirit has disintegrated, and now it's inside the storehouse. That's a good way of thinking about it. It's inside the storehouse. Your job as someone who wants to become real is to go into the storehouses of value that have been bequeathed to us by the past and to discover and revitalize the spirit that gave rise to them.
True.
Not to parasitize them.
And when they parasitize
They
them,
strip them to their bones, and there's nothing left.
and they do it obviously, right?
Yeah, it's
there's
so obvious.
plagiarism. There's all these different and all that
False
stuff.
scientific papers.
Yeah,
Trans
and all that stuff
athletes.
all that gets swept under the rug because the people that are doing it are part of the protected class.
Yeah.
So they protect the parasites. Like this is my lamprey.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Like, no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This is my baby.
Like the woman from Harvard, they fired her, but they gave her an equal paying job.
It could also be, Joe, and I might as well get in trouble for this too.
Let's go.
Oh my
Well,
God, he's so brave. Go
Because
ahead.
women are more agreeable, they're more prone to manipulation by psychopaths because
True.
their primary
They're
ethos
retarded, basically.
is nurturing.
Yeah.
For a naive woman, every victim is a baby. It's like, fine, 90% of them are victims. You could even say that about criminals. You go to
Yeah.
a run-of-the-mill prison.
Thank God men don't fall into that problem, like infantilizing Donald Trump and providing zero standards of behavior whatsoever and treating him like an actual retarded fucking child every time he says something stupid. Thank God we don't have that issue because we're fucking men. Hell yeah.
And there's going to be people in there, and you heard their lives, you think, oh my God, no wonder.
Right.
And then there's another core group that's like, oh, I see who you are. You're if I saw inside your skull for 5 seconds, I'd have post-traumatic stress disorder. I'd never recover. Right? Those people don't exist. It's like,
Yeah, they
oh
don't-
yes, they exist.
Yeah, they exist.
Yeah, yeah, and they're very good at crying like infants.
Yeah.
Right. And then the mothers, the naive mothers, come flooding out. And the women dominated the universities from the 1960s onward. They
did.
It's like,
They fucked us.
in come the parasites. And they're
True.
enabled. And what
One
are
of
they
the more
enabled by?
Fascinating things to me is when parasites are confronted and they laugh. Like one of the things.
What? Dude, this has to be an epic troll. This has to be a troll, right? This has to be a troll.
About academic parasites, when you challenge their beliefs,
That's contempt.
You don't know what you're talking about. I saw this with the anti-Semitism on campus thing when women these women were confronted by these statements like "death to the Jews" on campus, and whether or not this is hate speech. And I saw it with I believe it was Josh Howley was
Yeah.
the woman was he was saying some women can give birth and some men can give birth as well, like. Some men have period like this. This kind of like, and I guess this line of questioning is very transphobic and opens people up to violence.
Right,
with
right,
a laugh, with a laugh and a smile, a diminishing of your position by mockery.
It's contempt, yeah.
When what they're saying doesn't make any fucking sense to anybody rational, but they're so embedded in this system that they really believe that they have the kind of control.
Bro, you could make you could put spooky music on it and everything else if you really want to do. You could literally make a supercut of every single thing that he's talking about right now and how it applies perfectly to the Trumples. And it would work 1-to-1. Holy shit.
over Congress that they have over their classmates. This is like standard behavior for them, mocking and dismissing other ideas that are counter to theirs.
Right. Well, and there's plenty of reward for that disseminated in the universities.
Yes.
Right? And so that's part of their.
How do you fix that?
With
Or
Peterson
can you?
Academy.
Nah.
No, I'm dead serious,
I believe
man.
you. I believe
Look,
you.
it's not like I'm thrilled about the fact that Harvard is having a war with Donald Trump, and I'm less thrilled with the fact that I hope Donald Trump wins. I work at Harvard.
Oh
It was a
my
great
God.
place. I'm not happy at all that these institutions have become what they've become. And if I could see a way forward to revitalizing them, then, but what are you going to do? Like, the administration took over the universities and parasitized the tuition fees and the tax dollars. Then the woke mob parasitized the administration.
Not the woke mob.
And here we are. Now, what are you going to do about that? All these tenured professors who are progressive, and they're way less progressive than the administrators. You going to fix that? How? How? Even in principle. I don't see it how. So what we decided to do, we've been working on this for 10 years. Is
Candace Owens literally laughed at Rogan in that clip when he said he believed in climate change.
like, well, what do universities do? Well, they educate, they offer lectures, they have a place where people can congregate, they help people mature, they explain the world, they encourage people to aim up, they teach people to write. My son runs this essay app. We're trying to teach kids to write. We're integrating that with Peterson Academy so they can learn to think. That's our solution.
Yeah.
Will it work? The world's a pretty dynamic place. It's working real well at the moment, and
Well, people need some sort of an alternative to that system. If you recognize what that system is, especially if you're participating in it and you're opposed to all of it and you're trapped in it and it is it's vital to your success that you accept some of it, how else can you get through? How can you get this degree and maintain some level of sovereignty over your mind and your ideas? Like it's a horrible trap. And I've met a lot of people that I think are very rational, reasonable people that get at least some of that stuck in their head.
Oh yeah. Well, when we did some research trying to see what predicted politically correct authoritarianism, was the last piece of research I did
Politically
for my
correct
research lab.
authoritarianism,
Cease
true.
to be a viable entity. Let's say, what predicted? So politically correct authoritarianism was that like hyper compassionate leftism, but conjoined with willingness to use force to put the doctrines forward, force and fear. So it's tyrannical compassion. That's exactly that. What are the predictors? Low verbal intelligence. That's the first one. Second one was being female. The third one was having a feminine temperament. The fourth one was ever having taken even one politically correct course.
Wow.
Yeah, right. And so I've thought that through for a long time.
That's
it's
crazy.
Like, well, what's the female relationship? Because that's a crucial one. The female-dominated disciplines are the most woke by far.
Wow.
Why?
And so I think it's because of that basic ethos of compassion. All who cry are babies. Well, look, that's the right default for women.
Yeah.
You know, like wise women. My wife is one of these women. She was a very good mother. She never thought adult men were babies. Like one of the things that's quite striking about my wife is that if you're a useless man, she doesn't feel sorry for you.
Wow.
You're not a baby. Now, she's really good at taking care of babies. And so she got...
Wait, how does his wife feel about incel men? I thought, didn't we have all these this compassion for incels a little bit ago? What happened? Are they losers now, or?
She's discriminating in her empathy. And we're in a situation now where people think that indiscriminate empathy is a virtue. That's Eve's sin.
Right.
See, Eve, literally, Eve wants to put the feminine ethos at the top of the hierarchy of value.
True.
That replaces God. Right? And that causes the fall. And then Adam, he's such a cuck. That's exactly it. Is that he goes along with her. He doesn't stand up and tell her that maybe she shouldn't be listening to poisonous serpents. He doesn't. He consumes with her what she delivers so that she'll be his friend, because you know how useful men like that are. Yeah. And then when the fall happens, he complains to God that God made Eve and cursed him with it.
Hey.
That's the story. So it's not just women. And we got to get this straight. Women with their drive towards indiscriminate compassion,
It's
so that even the
simps as
serpents
well.
are their children. It's men too who won't say
No.
They always say yes, dear, whatever you want. Yes,
Weak
dear.
men.
Weak men who don't help the women set boundaries. Now, you got to do that as a man, you know, like
That's why
when
fathers.
when you and your wife have a baby, for
Daughter.
the first 9 months,
Yeah.
every time the baby cries, it's right. Right? You respond to a baby's cries as if it's right 100% of the time. Because human infants are so dependent
Retarded. Oh.
and utterly unable to fend for themselves. So that sets up a very powerful feminine dynamic. It's like, if it cries, take care of it. Okay, so what are the men for? It's like, if it cries, take care of it, except that. That's a false cry. And you see that with kids. They'll start playing with that by the time they're 9 or 10 months old, right? Yes, of course. And so you differentiate. It's like, oh, no, that's not a baby. That's a snake. Well, are you sure it's not a baby? It's like, nope, snake, for sure. Snake, poisonous snake, in fact. Right. Well, I'm feeling pretty sorry for it. It's like, save your compassion for the truly needy and leave the snakes to me. Right. And Adam doesn't do that.
Is it a function of a society that's
Too feminine?
almost, I don't want to say too
feminine.
successful and empathetic, and there's too much abundance.
Too much
that
women
you have more
voting.
of
This is why women voting ruins
crime.
everything, by the way.
Look, no, but you have more parasitical behavior.
Right.
Why? Well, everyone's got pretty comfortable because we've been in a high trust society for a long time. It's like, oh, everybody's trustworthy. It's like, no,
Stupid.
a few people in a few countries are trustworthy most of the time, and that's really hard. Right. And there's stringent preconditions. Right. So everyone's trustworthy. And now there's all these piles of wealth lying around everywhere.
Check the next timestamp. Let me get a
Parasite dream, especially when it's unguarded. Yeah. And so it's enabled by the women and unguarded by the men. And both are at fault, right? And that you see that in the Genesis account too. It's like Eve clutches the serpent to her breast, but Adam fails to help her distinguish.
Plenty of these parasitic men as well.
Oh yeah, they're the worst. They're the worst. Men cry victim and look for sympathy from women. Yeah. There was a famous a serial killer who did that. The lawyer, Ted Bundy. You know what his trick was? He had a VW, if I remember correctly. He had a cast that he could take on and off. So he put his hood up. Maybe it wasn't a VW. He put his hood up because his car didn't work, and he did it around places where he knew there were young women, and then he'd entice them to stop because, well, poor Ted, because he's crippled and his car doesn't work. And then, and then the woman learned very painfully the difference between a monster and a baby. Right. Brutal. He was a bad guy. There are some bad people. And a fair number of them like to dress in women's clothing, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really uncomfortable for people if they have this idea that's embedded in their consciousness about what's going on, to accept that reality.
Of course. It's, in fact, accepting that when that reality is thrust upon you unawares, you develop post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Because it's naive people who encounter malevolence develop PTSD. That's the pathway.
Yeah.
So if you want to make your children susceptible to PTSD, like all these kids that are triggered by everything,
Right.
make them extremely naive and then let them encounter malevolence, right? Because you're supposed to teach them to handle serpents, right? Right, to identify them and handle them. And that means they have to learn about the nature of the world. And the girls to differentiate between snakes and babies.
Yeah.
Right, and babies and men. And the man who worms his way into your dreams because he's a dependent infant, he's a snake.
Yeah.
And your
there's plenty
sympathy
of
is
that.
wasted on him. Yes, there certainly are. Man, I tell you, those riots that used to gather around me, that was mostly 2017, before I stopped speaking at universities.
Just as a heads up, if you care about anything related to being an incel or fucking women or anything else, this type of shit is actual radioactive, toxic incel creation material. If you are near a woman or talking to women and you ever bring out any of the, well, let me tell you about how feminism and feminine traits and women are actually the losers that are destroying society, this is the shit that will keep you an incel forever, okay? So careful, okay? If you believe these things, don't share them with other women, because holy fuck. The next thing is at 2:59.
Advisor for 10 years. 10 years. And there's going to be more of the same under you. And now you're pretending to be an industrialist, even though you're one of the leaders, the world's leading authorities on EEI, ESG, and net zero. That's Mark Carney. All you have to do is read his book, which people don't, of course, because it's a book. First 3 chapters will do the trick. Oh, now, either he's decided that every single thing he ever believed was wrong right to the core and hasn't apologized or let anyone know that.
Apologized?
And now he's actually Mr. Industry, which is how he's presenting himself to Canadians. Or he believes what he's always believed.
Or he's a wolf wearing grandma's dress.
Yeah, he's a benevolent wolf. Well, that's why the wolf wears grandma's dress, isn't it? It's like, there's no one nicer than me.
So how does Canada correct course?
People either correct course by waking up or by experiencing severe pain. And it looks to me like we've chosen the severe pain route. We already make 60 cents. We already produce 60 cents to every dollar you Americans produce, even though we were at parity 10 years ago. And so after 4 more years of Carney, we could easily have that down to 50 cents.
Wow.
Spiraling housing prices.
Well, don't worry, because Americans are also on our way to destroying our own economy too. So, we might get there. We might catch up. We might meet you guys, not because you guys are getting more productive, because we're getting less productive.
A lot of social instability in Canada, especially since after October 7th.
Do you think that's
all my
social?
Jewish friends in Toronto are terrified.
Yeah.
That's not fun. I don't like seeing that.
No.
It's awful. It's awful. And all those psychopaths who've been parading around their moral virtue since October 7th, they're plenty emboldened. Plenty.
Ooh.
Yeah. Plenty.
Jeez.
I'll give you a little example of Canada. So we had the English leadership debate a week ago. And the powers that be, who organized the debate, the legacy media types, with CBC radically
Fucking
involved,
legacy
couldn't
media,
figure
dude.
out how to exclude rebel media. That right-wing news, kind of tabloidy news group from Canada, Ezra Levant, who's been buzzing about for 10 years, causing trouble like a right-wing tabloid journalist, which is what he is. Well, they didn't want him in the press scrum for the leaders after the debate.
Wow.
So they canceled it. They canceled the journalists' interviews of the 4 leading contenders for Prime Minister in Canada.
What the fuck?
Because some
That's
right-wing
crazy.
tabloid journalists, they've had a newspaper or a media empire for 10 years. I don't care what you think of it. It's not the point. The point is they canceled the journalist scrum after the English language debate.
That's so
And no
fascinating.
one complained.
But that doesn't even make sense. Like, if you're a presidential candidate and you're or prime minister candidate and you're encountering someone that has an opposing perspective, you should have really good answers.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
it.
look, if you're
Hi, bro, kill me. Kill me. I would pay. If I donate money, can I get debates people? Because that one guy seemed like he wanted to take $10,000 to debate Bisco. Can I offer $10,000 to the MMA CTE Foundation or some bullshit and just force Joe Rogan to sit here for 3 hours? So you were complaining about people not answering questions on the media. Can we talk about Trump's and Caroline Levitt's behavior in every single press conference that they have? Hello? Really?
Guys leading, why ask questions? That's the legacy media in Canada. It's the CBC.
Right.
It's state funded, right? Right to the core.
My
1.4
God.
think about this, Joe. This is our bloody
Think
state
about this,
media.
Joe.
It's so funny. $1.4 billion in direct government subsidy and $600 million in federal advertising per year.
Wow.
$2 billion. Go to the CBC website on YouTube.
That's crazy.
You look at their last 20 videos. I'll guarantee that not a single one of them has more than
Guarantee.
200 views. Right, which means the people who made the video clips didn't watch them.
Jesus.
Right. That's what you get for $2 billion. Now, everyone in Canada who's older than 55 watches legacy media.
Right.
And Poilievre said he'd defund the CBC. So you can imagine they're not exactly covering him in a positive way.
I watched the debate where he kept getting talked over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jagmeet Singh.
Fascinating.
He's
to
such
watch.
fun with his pink turban.
Yeah.
He's such a fashion icon. Luckily, he's going to lose his own seat, and his party's going to be devastated. That's the socialists. They're going to be devastated so badly that they won't have official party status.
But it's incredible to watch that in Canada, where I've always thought at least your disc.
Why did they actually cancel this? Hold on.
After the French debate, there were scrums that happened afterwards. We are hearing from the Debate Commission that the scrums tonight have been cancelled. So Karina Roman has some more details for us about what we know about this change of plans.
Yes, Adrian, we just heard from the head of the commission, the debates commission, Michel Cormier. He just came into the media room. This is where all the media is watching the debate and then filing their stories. He just stood at the mic at the front of the room. Everyone ran over to hear the official confirmation of what we had already been told for planning purposes, which is that the scrums with the leaders are canceled. The reason that they gave officially at the microphone was that they didn't feel that they could provide or guarantee a proper environment for the scrums. And this obviously comes on the heels of some unusual scrums last night and a situation last night that I know we've been reporting on, but also tension in the room and confrontations that were happening between journalists. And so once that started unraveling, we started to get word that this was what was going to happen. And of course, there was a scrambling to find out if it was true or not. We did get confirmation, but now we actually got official confirmation from the head of the commission that the scrums are canceled.
So, Karina, do you know what happens now at this point? I mean, will there be an attempt by some parties to have scrums somewhere? What's the plan?
That has not been confirmed, but obviously we've reached out to all the parties and are hearing word that some are interested in still doing some kind of scrum, but in a different location, perhaps not all together individually. And certainly if that goes ahead, different journalists would dispatch to those scrums. But we don't have confirmation of that. It's a fairly just last minute decision. I should tell you, Adrian, that when we were trying to confirm the rumors, we were obviously reaching out to parties. Some of the parties seemed to have heard the rumors and some hadn't. So in some ways, we were telling them what was going on. So they now have to scramble and see, can they find a location and figure that all out at this late hour. And so we need to figure out, and they need to figure out whether that can happen logistically.
Guys.
But if it does, for sure, journalists will go and ask questions and bring that to our viewers when we can.
So, Karina, just one last thought, just because people at home may be wondering, why are people still there then? I presume people are just filing their stories and hoping somebody else is going to go to a microphone.
I don't know how much hope there is, to be honest. I think people feel like they're pretty certain that that's not going to happen. Although there was an altercation between journalists at the microphone earlier. There certainly was one earlier at one of these media tables. And before that...
An altercation? Does anybody have a video of that? What actually happened? Are these guys like fucking fist fighting or...
There was another one because there is a lot of frustration with these scrums being canceled that cuts off access to journalists who want to ask questions on behalf of Canadians about what we saw in the debate, about points that were raised by the leaders, and now that isn't going to be able to happen, or at least not easily and not here. And so there is some blame being thrown around about whose fault that is to have created the situation and this tension that led to this situation. But yes, people still have stories to file in, whether they're digital or radio or television, and so people haven't made an exodus.
So I saw this is a comment from YouTube and from DGG. From DGG, Destiny, the night before was the French debate, and Rebel got to ask more questions than others because they had more reporters there due to a court decision. And somebody in YouTube chat said, after the French debate, 2/3 of the questions were from Rebel News and True North. The questions were highly biased, not grounded with anything the debate talked about. A source with direct knowledge says the debates commission's decision to cancel the scrums, not being able to guarantee a proper environment, was related to the Rebel, including Rebel staff, trying to interrupt and get on the air during a CBC broadcast that was live earlier tonight. So to be clear, this had to do with concerns about what would happen during the scrums and not an actual security threat against any of the leaders. Okay. Sorry, hold on, just reading a quick thing. Or here, you can listen.
This yet, even if there are no scrums to be held here tonight.
I hear that. Lots of work to do. All right, Karina Roman from inside the Maison de Radio-Canada here in Montreal. Thank you.
The discussion to cancel, I guess, these scrums, whatever. This began after Rebel reporters had allegedly been lining up ahead of the end of the debate to ask questions, while journalists usually wait until the debate is finished before joining the line, according to CTV News. Another reporter from Global News said on X that Rebel News had also allegedly tried to take over the CBC live broadcast during the debate, which also sparked concerns. This is following the scrum cancellation. CBC reporter Rosemary Barton addressed the situation during the live broadcast. That is because the commission allowed people who are not part of the media, who are right-wing activists, to come in that room and act as though they were members of the media, made for a very fraught environment, and there were a number of conflicts that led to the fact that this is where we ended up tonight. Is there a Is there like a video of them asking questions? I'm just curious to see if they're really, if they were just as distracting, I guess, as these people are saying.
All right, so let's get back to the substance of what we did here.
Well, can I just pick up on Karina, if I
please.
can?
Absolutely.
There are, just so people understand, there are a series of police officers stationed behind us to make sure that we remain safe and that the media get out safely. They were not altercations between journalists inside the media room, and there was no altercation between journalists that happened on David's set. These were right-wing people that publish their own agenda and websites who confronted journalists inside the media center, who confronted David on his set, who directly and personally confronted me inside the media center. These are people that the commission decided to accredit, and that is where we are now. The situation deteriorated quickly in terms of how those people were behaving inside a professional media center where you were supposed to be doing your job, and that has left us with no scrums and a strange security situation on a night where we should be focused on the things that you want to ask us about.
It certainly didn't look like this
just
last
one
night.
point on that. We are inside a secure perimeter.
Oh, okay. I don't know how true this is. I'm sorry. I'm reading this. I'm not super familiar. Okay, I'm giving a quick summary. I could be wrong. I'm giving the normal thing. So it sounds like in Canada, it sounds like you have your media people that register to ask questions, but you're also allowed to have these third-party advocacy groups that are allowed to register to come in and ask questions as well. And typically, like a third-party advocacy group is asking questions related to usually specific issues. So you might have a third-party advocacy group for like environmental stuff, to save porcupines, or for indigenous issues or whatever. And it sounds like what happened was, so both Rebel News Network, LTD, and a group known as For Canada, which is run by Rebel Media's Ezra Levant, they registered as third parties, advocacy groups as well. So they were able to get more of their media people in. And in an environment where normally you'd have some of these advocacy groups coming in and asking questions, they basically had subsidiaries of their company as quote unquote advocacy groups to come up and ask more questions as well. Sneaky.
Perimeter. You have to go through screening process.
When questioned if the fact that these groups were spending money on advocacy was considered, the commission's executive director said he didn't know that they had registered as third parties. I wasn't aware of that. Interesting.
Just one point on that. We are inside.
Somebody said, here's an example of questions that were asked.
The answers and question very short, please.
Absolutely. Alex Zoltan with True North. If you thought my friend's question was odd, you're going to love this one.
I'm glad you self-assessed that. Okay.
How many genders are there?
There, in terms of sex, there are two. Thank you.
My follow-up question then, do you believe that women, biological women, have the right to their own spaces?
Nice.
Their own sports, their own change rooms, their own prisons, their own homeless shelters?
I think we...
So this guy's a representative from True North, which is another conservative media outlet.
This is Canada. And that, as a general objective, yes. But we work in where we value all Canadians for who they are, and we'll continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci.
Okay.
Based.
A secure perimeter. You have to go through screening processes that involve the RCMP. This set we were on, they came in with bomb-sniffing dogs, searched our bags to make sure everything was safe. That's to make sure the leaders are safe and everybody in here is safe.
How does he not have a prepared answer for this? I mean, you probably should. I don't know what the media environment is like as much in Canada, but it sounds like, and I could be wrong because I don't partake in Canadian media, but it sounds like the the MO for these types of debates is there are particular topics that they're organized on, and then after the debate, you'll have a media person, or you'll have people from the media come up and asking questions related to the topics or the subjects covered at the debate. But obviously, we just have like media, other people there that are trying to push a certain agenda. They're just going to ask the things that they care about, right? Which sounds like it's atypical for Canadian stuff. That's what I'm making some assumptions here, but
safe. And for whatever reason, the way this evolves throughout the day and yesterday, the Montreal police are here putting up caution tape, escorting people out. And the leaders of Canada's 4 parties who were able to participate in this debate, because they, what was the phrase? Didn't feel they could provide or guarantee a proper environment. They're not going to take questions from journalists. And look, I know not everybody thinks it's all about us, but it is an important part of the ritual of elections and democracies and accountability. And it is part of the stress test that these leaders go through as they seek to lead this country, and spend your tax revenue and make laws, and some serious things being discussed tonight about criminal justice and using the notwithstanding clause. These are all things that require a serious and mature debate, not financially motivated stunts. And this is where we've ended up in this election. With everything going on with Donald Trump and everything going on in this economy and everything going on in the world, this is where the national Canadian election debate has ended up. And it's just exhausting. And it is the end product of multiple.
fuck you, Canada. Now you guys get to suffer your shit media people. Stop deporting them here. Stop sending us your horrible media people. You deal with them. That's true. Fuck you, okay? Because all your horrible media people, like all your Jordan Peterson shit, you send them down here and we have to suffer them. Now you suffer them, okay?
Years of rage farming for narrow political gain and financial benefit for a very small group of people who blew this up today.
And Canadians, as a result, don't get one more rare opportunity to hear the leaders answer questions.
Fuck you.
Discourse is much more polite.
Yeah, was.
Yeah.
No, we've got there's a lot of mopping up to do in Canada. Well, in the country, and the man who started the Reform Party in Canada, so that was the populist end of the Conservative movement 20 years ago, maybe a little longer, eventually reunited with the Conservatives. Preston Manning, son of an Alberta premier. He was premier of Alberta for like 40 years. He wrote an article in the Globe and Mail, which was it's the Canadian liberal establishment newspaper. And I mean liberal by the classic, old school, small L liberal, centrist sort of newspaper.
Okay.
Saying that Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan should have an immediate constitutional convention immediately on Carney's ascension to the throne. And Quebec doesn't want pipelines traversing its territory. And Quebec, I don't know if you noticed this, but one of the participants in the debate was a Canadian separatist. We literally have a Canadian federal party,
Federal.
localized in Quebec, whose stated intent is to break up the country.
Hasn't that always been the case with Quebec, though?
For a good while, it was provincial, right? I mean, they had a provincial party, like a state party, right? Okay, fair enough. Have your state separatist party. It's for your state. Oh, no, we want to have a national party. We want to be represented in the House of Commons as separatists.
Oof.
Yeah, so the country's it's very sad. And I was hoping
they could be the 51st state.
Yeah, that's what happened. So two things.
Yes,
Back to that.
That was the big one.
Carney showed up just in the nick of time to save the burning damsel from the train tracks or whatever the hell it is. And
the rhetoric.
And then Trump, he just timed it so badly. And he didn't know. He didn't know what it would do. He didn't know. But that's also...
How do you not know that people have national pride?
Yeah, he knew that, but he didn't know what the electoral consequences would be. He didn't know that would shift them to the
so Trump's a
liberals,
fucking
so
retard,
and he's going to pay for that because once Carney is elected, if that happens, Trump will not have a more seasoned enemy in the West.
Boy.
Right, Carney's very well connected. Especially in Europe and the UK. Very well. So, and
Europe and the UK is a mess.
Yeah, you might say that.
Mess.
Oh, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Kind of crazy. I thought Brexit was supposed to fix everything. What happened with that? What happened with that one, guys?
We've highlighted all the arrests in the UK over social media posts, and most people have no idea. Constantine Kissin is great with explaining all that to people. It's so funny when he compares it to Russia.
Yeah.
And he says how many people got arrested in Russia. How many people you think got arrested in the UK? And most people are, none, right?
Yeah.
No, 4,000.
Does he think that Russia is nicer to its citizens when it comes to aspects of free speech than... Hello? Okay. True.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, there's videos
and you
all
just
over
see this,
the internet
You
about
just see this everywhere. So they've implemented these 20-mile-an-hour speed limits everywhere. And so...
20 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, because, Joe...
That's a bike.
You don't really need a car. Like, what are you doing that's so important that you need a car? Like, if I have to go to a climate meeting, well, I get a car. But The peasants, they don't really need cars. They don't need
He's
heat
so
either.
fucking
Not
ass-bang.
that much heat. Maybe they can stop grandma from freezing.
One of the
Barely.
fascinating things about Bernie Sanders and his anti-oligarch tour is
Yeah.
they're doing it on private jets.
What? That's so funny, dude.
Yeah, exactly. So we were in the UK.
By the way, and Hassan is able to, shirk all fucking accountability by his crazy things. But this is when Hassan says, "Oh, socialism when you're poor," he's talking about these types of people who are like, "Oh, you think that you can fight climate change and still drive a car and still have a jet and still do this, right?" Now, admittedly, like you can be crazy about it. I think it might have been fair to criticize. Was it Leonardo DiCaprio who took a fuck ton of private planes or whatever? No, actually, wait. He might even be a bad example, though, because I think, doesn't Leonardo DiCaprio have like a whole like fucking green house that offsets all the potential climate bullshit or something? Or am I making this up? I mean, there are ways to offset the carbon stuff. When you book flights, you can pay for carbon taxes or whatever. And I don't know if these people do this with these private jets or not, but this is the type of stuff they're talking about, basically. Taylor Swift flies a lot. I don't know how much climate change shit she does, but...
Okay, not long ago for this ARC conference, and we rented a truck. And whenever it went over 20 miles an hour, it beeped at you, just like seatbelt things beep.
Oh, God.
And
My God.
then
Miles an
if
hour.
you go more than 2 miles an hour over the speed limit and you get caught, then that knocks 1/3 of your license off. If you do that 3 times, you don't have a license for a year. Yeah.
Damn.
Beep, 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 beep. Climate knocking.
Oh,
climate
my God.
knocking. Yeah.
That's what the
Yeah,
libs
you
want to
can
do to
tell
all your
tyrants,
stuff.
Joe,
That's
That's
they
what the
use
libs want to
fear
do to all your
and,
stuff, by the way.
Compulsion, and they hate comedians and cars. Right. There's tyrant checklist. Hates cars. Check. No sense of humor. Check.
Yeah.
Uses fear. Check. Uses force. Check. Psychopath.
Check.
Right.
I hate to end this on a bleak note.
Well, let's end it on a positive note.
Okay.
Okay. So what's positive? Young people are flocking back to churches across the world.
Is it not fair to criticize people who preach about climate change, who take private jets and cruises and things that are inherently wastefully polluting? If it's like an unnecessary pollutionary thing, I don't know if that's even a word, pollutionary, then sure, probably. But like typically people that take private jets do so because traveling via ordinary means is just prohibitively encumbersome. Like they have like insane schedules or it usually comes down to like scheduling. Sometimes it can be like safety or security.
The West. And more to the conservative churches. And the only thing we have to buttress us into the future against the Islamists and the Marxists and the nihilists and the hedonists is our return to our core traditions. Without that,
Our
we're
core
done.
traditions,
And so that's happening.
like Donald Trump.
And in big numbers. And so that's really quite something. The back has been broken of the climate apocalypse narrative. There's plenty of mopping up to do, but half the people know that there's something rotten in the state of Denmark and that that particular apocalypse is probably not worth giving up all your freedoms for. We've seen a lot of progress on the ARC front, like a lot of the things that we've been putting forward, the better story, so that's a return to the foundations of Western civilization that made our society the sort of place that dispossessed people will go to voluntarily, right? There's lots of people who are starting to understand that that's seriously worth preserving, right? Energy executives are waking up, as far as I can see, to the fact that they could help the world's poor in a serious way. And if they want to moralize, if they want to act morally, that would be a good place to start.
Wow.
There's lots of people who are working to produce abundance. Your country, the U.S., you guys are unbelievably good at that. Way better than any other country in the world.
Abundance. That's the meme.
You generally deliver in times of crisis. And you might just do that again. And then I would say underneath all that, you said you're pretty happy to encourage people. You're very happy when you hear that your show has been helpful to people. And there's lots of people who are consciously trying to aim up, and more of them all the time. And if enough people
God,
do
I
that,
hope he cries once more.
we
Please.
won't need to learn through pain, and we can bring abundance everywhere in the world, and we can make the next 50 years an unparalleled success. And we need...
What do we need?
We need the faith and courage of Joshua and Caleb to do that. Of course, the future is full of giants and disasters. But if we aim up and we speak the words of truth that make good order out of chaos, then anything's possible. So,
all right. Beautiful.
That was
Always
beautiful.
enjoy this. Always enjoy our conversations. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate our friendship. It's been great knowing you all these years and watching this crazy journey that you've been on. I'm glad you're doing great.
Yeah, Joe. Same thing for you, man. Thanks a lot. And thanks for your help with Peterson Academy, too.
My pleasure.
It's been very helpful.
All right.
Much appreciated.
That's beautiful, guys. What a great show. This is the owner of Rebel Media.
Things get homoerotic / because for plausible deniability. Also, the dudes are being kind of homophobic. That's one.
Do you have friends that
You've
get pretty homophobic at times?
Yeah, most of my gay friends.
Most of your gay friends.
Do you know how much? Do you know how fast? What was it? What was the F thing he used?
You say.
He said, yeah.
Was it fagotization?
Yeah, yeah.
That's run through my gay friends like wildfire. They
Fagotization.
Love they love it.
They love fagotization.
They think it's the funniest word they've heard in a while.
So Ryan Turnbull.
Doing this voice doesn't actually
So
work.
Ryan Turnbull. No, I'm not. I'm curious. What, do you just think that politicians should be off the hook for saying stuff like this?
What, 15 years ago? How long ago?
He was 30.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry,
So
who are you?
He wasn't a politician, so this was when he was...
He was a 30-year-old man.
Okay.
Who called gay men perverse.
Yeah, I think I've read through your story,
Yeah.
and I know you don't even believe that that's what he said.
Oh, I
Because know you're
100%
smart
because
on
I
that,
read
but
it.
you're just,
I read it that
yeah,
that's what
no,
he
I
said.
read it too. And you're
Okay,
I
so-
don't
so
think you're a
you're-
very, I mean, you don't have any sort of morals or scruples. So
Okay.
you'll just throw it wherever you want.
Amoral.
But I read it, and I know you're actually smarter than you pretend to be. So I know you know what he was.
So he typed the words on Facebook, perverse fagotization, referring to
so
gay
that's the
men.
only
No,
thing he wrote.
just calm down for a second, guys.
No, I know, but I want you to
So
be honest.
So he said perverse fagotization, referring to homosexual men, and you think that that's an acceptable type of language for
Is that all
politicians to
he-
use?
Oh, well, he wasn't a
No,
politician.
that wasn't the only thing that he said.
wasn't a
He said
politician.
a
I
lot.
read what he said.
He said a lot of
Yeah, I read
extremely
what he said.
homophobic stuff. And just because he's a liberal, you're trying to defend him. If this was a conservative,
Oh, so if it was so if it was a conservative, you would call for him to be removed, like Aaron
oh,
Gunn.
absolutely. But
or
Aaron
Andrew
Gunn
Lawton?
hasn't said something like that. And if you could point to them doing that, please let me know.
The voice doesn't
It's
work.
crazy that you're getting so emotional about this, though. And how many of your
Honestly,
friends?
I
How many
have
of your
respect
friends
for
drop
this sort
F
of,
slurs just frequently?
I have respect for the industry and the profession.
Sure, you do. Yeah.
Your little chattering class.
What is even the context of this? Who said fagotization? I don't know any of the actors here, or not like actual actors, but like the people who are involved in this.
Sure.
I'm guessing Ezra Klein is the video taping guy, and this guy back here is the liberal dude.
You
Sorry.
third-party advertisers that you
Who
work
are you?
for?
Who are you? Who do you work for?
Rebel News?
Or no, this guy is the Rebel News guy?
Who do you work for?
Rebel News, owned by Ezra Levant, is a different company.
Or not Ezra Klein, I'm sorry, Ezra Levant. My bad. How many times did I say Ezra Klein? Wait, who's who here?
Why doesn't people reach out
Why are you screaming?
so they can stop spreading misinformation?
So...
Also,
I almost thought this was an Almost Friday skit.
Why are you screaming, by the way?
The guy recording is Rin Lux, okay. Point of view is Ezra, the mustache is the lib.
Well, I want to make sure the guys filming it over there get the good audio.
Good.
Can you hear me okay? Am I enunciating properly? Do you have one set up? You got the levels ready for me? Because you're clearly not doing any actual journalism while you're here.
you're supposed to maintain respectful discourse. It's right here in black and white.
Why, when you guys started gaming the rules and threatening to sue because you didn't get your way, I assumed the rules were out the window.
No, it's right here in black and white. We follow the rules.
Oh,
It's the federal.
was that like when it was in black and white saying you should only have one reporter credited so that everyone might have a chance to ask a question? But
You're getting
instead,
the facts wrong.
you wanted to
Nobody
take,
reached out.
what was it, 2-minute long questions so that Polyev only got asked 3 questions. He usually allows 4 because things move
Why is this guy so mad?
at his press conferences. You guys are so verbose, I'll say. Most of us didn't get a question.
Ooh.
And what I really don't enjoy is that everyone else here was being respectful, following the rules, just being considerate to everyone else. And what you guys decided to do was to take advantage, threaten to sue, so that you could try to get more than everyone else. And now, nobody likes you. I read...
Got him.
Yeah, after you guys threatened to sue, so that you could... That's why they got the 4 questions, because the commission... You're making that up. You're lying again. When did the CBC
called him a liar.
get 4 questions? Yes, after they had already folded to you because you threatened to sue.
Damn. Okay. Tim Bull tweeted out, I was at the White House today and the crying libs were not. God, he's so epic, dude. Jordan Peterson on women, narrated by him, officially in his audiobook.
The unknown appears to be generally conceptualized or symbolically represented as female, primarily because the female genitalia, hidden, private, unexplored, productive, the divine unknown world or source of creation. Woman, insofar as she is subject to natural demands, is not merely a model for nature.
Was this just an AI voice? Is this an actual, like, writing from Maps of Meaning, or? This isn't AI. He recorded his own audiobook.
She is divine nature. She literally embodies the matrix of biological being and provides, as such, an appropriate figure for the metaphoric modeling of the ground of everything. The female body constitutes the border between normal experience and the totality from which all forms emerge. Infants come from mothers. Things come from somewhere. This hypothesis is something feminine, like the mothers of experience. It is something with an endlessly fecund and renewed, maternal and virginal nature. It constantly threatens and engenders all that we do, all that we understand, and all that we are. It can never be eliminated permanently from consideration, since every solution merely provides the breeding place for a host of new problems. And existence maintains itself in endless suffering, transformation, and death. Life generates and destroys itself in a pitiless cycle, and the individual remains constantly subject to forces beyond understanding or control. Their sheer frightfulness makes us hesitate, whether they represent a skull, the head of a snake or hippopotamus, a face showing human likeness, or a head consisting of 2 stone knives borne by a body pieced together from parts of snakes, panthers, lions, crocodiles, and human beings. Disease, hunger, hardship, war above all are her helpers. And among all peoples, the goddesses of war and the hunt express man's experience of life as a female exacting blood. This terrible mother is the hungry earth, which devours its own children and fattens on their corpses. It is the tiger and the vulture and the coffin, the flesh-eating sarcophagus voraciously licking up the blood seed of men and beasts, and once fecundated and sated, casting it out again in new birth, hurling it to death, and over again to death. Okay. Indeed, the monster in the swamp, the rotting, cadaverous zombie who threatens the living. She is progenitor of the devil, the strange son of chaos. She is the serpent and Eve, the temptress. She is the femme fatale, the insect in the ointment, the hidden cancer, the chronic sickness, the plague of locusts, the cause of drought. Mother aborts children and is the dead fetus, breeds pestilence and is the plague. She makes of the skull something gruesomely compelling and is all skulls herself. To unveil her is to risk madness, to gaze over the abyss, to lose the way, to remember the repressed trauma. She is the molester of children, the golem, the boogeyman, the monster in the swamp, the rotting, cadaverous zombie who threatens the living. She is progenitor of the devil, the strange son of chaos. She is the serpent and Eve, the temptress. She is the femme fatale, the insect in the ointment, the hidden cancer, the chronic sickness, the plague of locusts, the cause of drought, the poisoned water. She uses erotic pleasure as bait to keep the world alive and breeding. She is a gothic monster who feeds on the blood of the living. She is the water that washes menacingly over the ridge of the crumbling dam, the shark in the depths, the wide-eyed creature of the deep forests, the cry of the unknown animal, the claws of the grizzly, and the smile of the criminally insane. She is the mystery of life that can never be mastered. She grows more menacing with every retreat.
Okay, but is he wrong? When Bad Empanada tried to sue me for defamation, my barrister, Anthony Morris, KC, sent a letter to his law firm basically explaining that it is impossible for Bad Empanada to be defamed because his reputation is horrible. He has a long history of public... Blah, blah, blah. We added a letter containing hundreds of these screenshots, and his law firm dropped him as a client. What's the proof that they dropped him as a client? Is that true?
United States. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So this court document was going around Twitter. Take it with a grain of salt, but it was said that he was seeking asylum in America because his rival gang in El Salvador wanted to kill him. And it's like, that's the cost you got to pay for being in a gang.
Hey, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what's true and what's not true. I'm just looking at all the conversation around this guy, and I really don't know what the issue is because. Was he here illegally? I don't know.
If the president of El Salvador...
Was he a member of a gang, MS-13? I don't know.
But at what point are we at now if the president of El Salvador says he is not from America and we're not sending him back? He actually said it even more fire. He goes...
fire?
He goes, I cannot physically smuggle an El Salvadorian into America.
Yeah, he said he can't ship back a... Did he say terrorist?
He said smuggle.
Yeah, he said
because it would be illegal to bring him
I can't smuggle a terrorist back to America. I really don't know. Chris, what do you think of that situation? I really don't know what the fuck is going on.
It's not about this individual. It's about the ability of Trump to lock up people that he wants to lock up going against court orders.
I agree with that.
Why is it that like these random producer dudes on these podcasts are always like the sole voices of reason? Why is that happening?
Is this the case to use? The court, because I don't know if this guy was here illegally.
He was here.
Because if you're defying court orders because you're saying this guy was a gang member, he was here illegally.
The lower level court said you must effectuate his return.
Okay.
Right? The difference and the reason that Trump, I believe wrongly, is claiming that they won is because the Supreme Court said, I believe the terminology was you must facilitate. So what they're saying is, hey, if this guy shows up at the United States, we'll let him back in. It's not on us to bring him to the States.
Yeah.
To me, it's about a much larger thing. It's about what you're seeing with this guy who was part of Trump's administration, who tweeted against January 6th and the election claims. Trump's trying to investigate him. Lita James, now Trump is going after her, looking into stuff. It's about him
You knew that was coming, though.
I know, but it's about him weaponizing the court system. It's about him not responding to the court's rulings. It's about him taking control. I think it's very
dangerous. Do you think
dangerous.
the Democrats did that as well when they were in power?
No.
Not saying two wrongs make a
No.
right, but do you think that that's something that did happen?
Well, I think the difference is the things that, with the exception of January 6th, because there's no precedent for that, I think the things Trump was charged with are things that he's been charged with in other settings or accused of in other settings.
I mean, by the way, it's going to be typical political hypocrisy because, yes, you did push back. You did say Democrats weaponized the DOJ, and now Republicans are going to do the same thing. Like, you know that.
So that's my only thing is, like, let's cry about it both times, not when it happens to the group that we support.
Suppose one of them, the person's guilty.
Well, was he guilty?
Both of them are probably guilty.
Was he peeing on the
I don't think
Russian
that.
girls? Like with the whole Russiagate shit. You know it was bullshit.
I don't think Russiagate was bullshit.
Ooh,
I don't
I
think
want to know if this
it's
guy is illegal or not. That's what I want to know.
Yes, he's illegal.
Is he, though? I don't know. I really don't know.
No,
he's illegal and he's a gang member. And there was no evidence offered to refute that he wasn't a gang member. Do you want me to read the
gang member thing?
How do you offer evidence to refute that you were a gang member? How do you prove that? Prove that you weren't ever in a gang. Like, name every minute of your life. Fuck me, dude. Do you know every person you've ever spoken to? Fuck.
I I didn't, there's another version of it where his family owned a business that was targeted by gangs. Didn't say he was part of the gangs that he had to leave.
I really don't know.
I just think this
although the court is reluctant to give evidentiary weight to the respondent's clothing as an indication of a gang affiliation, the fact that a past proven and reliable source of information verified the respondent's gang membership, rank, and gang name is sufficient to support that the respondent is a gang member, and the respondent has failed to present evidence to rebut that assertion. That is the court document.
By the way, that was a very weak argument by Jesse Waters. Jesse, you're usually better than that. Jesse said that it's because he was wearing Chicago Bulls gear that he's a member of MS-13, and he was like, the Bulls didn't have a successful season last year. Like, you're not from Chicago. I'm like, come on, stop it, Jesse. Like, it's the Bulls. I didn't know the Bulls were symbolism for MS-13.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I think this is just a really dumb case for the Dems to put so much weight on.
Oh my
like
God.
now there's like some Democrats that are going to El Salvador to try to get him back, and I'm like, this isn't the one you fight.
It's a dumb case if he is actually a citizen of America. I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
No, he's 100% not a citizen.
He's definitely not a citizen.
Definitely, and he's going to claim asylum, and they're going to find out that he is a gang member, and he has been a gang member. It's going to be bullshit, and the Democrats are going to look retarded. I think.
Like, this is my issue with all the Epstein stuff, right? Is people will just start talking so confidently on stuff, and it's like really obvious, and there's no shame in not knowing fuck all about the U.S. immigration system. I didn't know fuck all before Melina got her green card shit. I still don't even know if I could name that whole process for doing all this. But people are just out here giving the most confident takes of like, oh, well, he's not a citizen. Is he a citizen? Does that matter? I don't even know. Like, they have no fucking idea. But they're so confident that this is not a good hill to die on. This ain't it, guys. Don't die on this hill. It would be real stupid to die on this hill. Why? Because he's not a citizen, but he was seeking asylum from some place, but the judge said he was in a gang, but that was 5 or 6 years ago, and he didn't get to, like, you have no idea. You really have no idea what you're talking about, but you have very strong feelings about it. This is the wrong hill to die on. You don't even know what hill they're on, my friend. You don't even know if they're on a hill right now. Like, what?
Alex's point, this is playing right into the Republican handbook. It's like you're playing.
How is it everything playing into the Republican handbook? Maybe you're just playing the wrong game. How is every single thing that is being done playing into the Republican handbook? At some point, you have to stop and wonder, like, hold on, am I being fucking retarded? Like, why does this play into the Republican handbook?
Right into literally the fucking president of El Salvador was like, yo, you got it wrong. Once the president of the
president who's trying to remain in the good graces of Donald Trump? Why is that surprising to you?
Country says you got it wrong, this is where you back off, and then you lock into certain things that make a lot more sense.
Because the original story was they were rounding people up, and they rounded up somebody who was not a gang member, and they sent him over, but now they're saying otherwise. I don't know what the real story is all I'm simply saying.
Listen, it sucks.
It sucks.
Actually, I don't know if he's a gang member, it doesn't suck. It's like,
well, I have no idea. Oh, I don't know if I guess maybe it does, maybe it does. Like, you have no idea. And there's no shame in that. It's like the Joe Rogan thing earlier. If you don't have an idea, then just don't have an idea. That's okay. You don't have to have an idea about it.
Don't need more gang members to come over here. Like, also, if you're a gang member here and then you come over to seek asylum because the rival gang wanted to get after you, it's like, yo, you chose up, bro. It's like, imagine Bloods are like, yo, the Crips are coming after me. I need you to give me protection. It's like, well, that's not how it works.
You're right.
You chose up.
The other thing that people are not paying attention to is,
that analogy is like fucking retarded as fuck, right? Like, there's no world where you call the cops and they're like, bro, I'm fucked. I think that there's like 5 Crips coming to my house right now. I think I need help. And the officer on the line is like, hold on, what colors do you wear? And the guy's like, you know, if you got mixed up in this shit, we ain't doing shit for you. Good luck, motherfucker. Stock up, bitch. Like, what are you talking about? Even the analogy is broken.
Sure, to Chris's point, this is what people, are. What did you say, Chris? You said people are going to assume this is something larger. He actually said that. Like, if you want to debate something, debate that Trump said he would actually send U.S. citizens to El Salvador. Debate that.
Yeah.
As opposed to debating, this situation. Am I tripping?
You're not tripping.
Not at all.
No,
I mean,
bro.
I was talking on the way over here with a friend, I guess former Democrat, who's furious with the Democratic Party. They're not doing anything. They're not doing enough. They're
what do you want them to
down.
do? What do you like? You don't want them to fight for people being deported without due process? What do you want them to fight for?
I was like, These are but then, and I understand what you're saying. Why put all your chips in with a guy who might be guilty? Who
I just
might
read
be,
the court doc. Like,
right.
how much more evidence?
Well, it's based on the testimony of someone who's a witness. We don't know who he is. I mean, it's within this context of everybody being forced to be part of a gang, potentially in that country, whatever.
Regardless, the determination of the
I
respondent
agree. It's
is
not
a gang member, and it appears to be trustworthy and is supported by other evidence in the record.
Like, also, listen to these same fucking guys. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Get me in front of one of these people. I will before the end of the year. Be in front of one of these fucking people, okay? I'm so sorry. Why did I hear over and over again 1,500 people for the J6 stuff? All of these people were kept without due process, without cause. All the evidence was bullshit. You didn't trust the FBI. You didn't trust any of the DC police. You didn't trust any investigator in any state to give any good determination on any of these people. But now, you trust an unnamed CI, confidential informant, okay, who's giving you hearsay that this guy was in a gang, and that's good as gold for you? You don't trust the 98% successful conviction rate of DC prosecutors, but you trust the unnamed confidential informant giving hearsay that this guy was in a gang, and that's enough for you to deport him from the fucking country? Back to the only place that the judge said he couldn't be deported to? It wasn't even back to fucking Venezuela or to Mexico. It was to the only place. There was one place that he wasn't supposed to be deported to, and it was fucking El Salvador.
So why did the Supreme Court
namely
vote 9-0 to bring him back?
Namely information contained in
That was a good question. That was a good question. What did he say? Why did the Supreme Court vote 9-0 to bring him back? That's an interesting question.
So why did the Supreme Court
namely
vote 9-0
information
to bring him back?
namely information contained in the Gangfield interview sheet?
But listen, why did the Supreme Court...
Look at him. He's like, oh, yeah, obviously, this is fucking real. Yeah, obviously. He's like, it's so obvious. Like, okay, let me show you the same sheets related to, like, Hunter Biden. Well, obviously they're all lying. They're feds, and they're just trying to cover up for... Okay, what about the J6 stuff? Well, you know, a lot of them exaggerated charges, no due process. Okay, what about the Donald Trump prosecutions? Oh, no, all of that's fabricated bullshit. Oh, okay. I guess the only people we can trust the FBI to investigate are fucking brown people? Is that the standard we're going with? Like, what the fuck?
Vote 9-0 to bring him back.
I think it was maybe on the...
9-0 is very rare.
Maybe it was on the case of seeking asylum, but it's like... Well,
because technically whatever type of residency he had, you know, was backed up by the court, right? But my point is, everyone's like, and I agree, like this on the surface of it doesn't seem like a smart thing to throw all your weight behind, right? But Trump is constantly trying to see what he can get away with.
True.
And with that in mind, yeah, I don't want to support a fucking guy from a foreign gang that's in this country running from another foreign gang. I don't want to get behind that.
Also, keep in mind, right, like, and it feels so stupid not to be lame and, you know, to be like a human being. People make mistakes in their life. People want to get away from that shit sometimes. Sometimes you're in environments where you have to join gangs or whatever the fuck, okay? Wasn't this guy in the United States, like, married with a kid for, like, 9 years or some shit? Or am I mixing him up with somebody else? Like, this guy had like a family. The person that filed the case against the U.S. government was his fucking wife, okay? And he has a child here, okay? Like, Jesus.
But I got to stop this guy because I know he doesn't give a shit about it either. He's trying to see if he gets away with this, the next step will be natural, you know, U.S. citizens getting sent out.
Was it me though? I'm just asking. I don't know. I'm
yes.
I'm telling you, these words did come out of Trump's mouth, so that's a fair thing to debate. But will this case lead to that?
Listen to this, okay? Okay, Donald Trump did say he would do that, so we can debate that. No, there is no debate, motherfucker. He literally fucking said it. Why would you have to debate the words that he fucking said? That's what he said. What do you mean?
I don't know.
Yes.
I'm telling you, these words did come out of Trump's mouth, so that's a fair thing to debate.
Or maybe he means debate whether or not that should or shouldn't happen. That's still a crazy thing that you would even have to debate that, but...
Will this case lead to that if they actually are right?
There are 4 more steps in between this and that.
Yeah, so
he's delusional. It's like...
No, but so the thing is,
not delusional
the
at all.
case was still open. Like the case of proving whether or not he was a gang member, that's still open. So that's why the court said...
Well, that wasn't a case. It's not illegal to be a member of a gang. Hassan said that, and he's super right when he was like, Hassan's like, I can't believe I have to fucking say this, but it's not illegal to be in a gang. That's not a fucking crime to be in a gang. Otherwise, all of my Dally Band would be prosecuted.
Him was illegal because he still has due process.
Oh, okay.
But he's here. But he's here illegally, so you actually don't get due process. You're here illegally. You broke the law by being here. And if he is connected to a gang unit, the gang has been deemed a terrorist unit, and you're not allowed to be here if you're part of a terrorist organization.
That makes sense too.
Oh my God.
Like, why are we even spending time on this? Like,
I just told you why.
no, I know,
what could happen.
but you're worried about the slippery slope thing, and you're like, Trump is seeing if he can get away. You think Trump even knows this motherfucker's name, bro? He don't even know this motherfucker's name.
So
my whole
he,
point.
he actually was here legally. He came here at 16, got legal protection in 2019 to stay because of the dangerous situation in El Salvador. So he was technically here legally.
I don't know.
So he was here illegally.
Legally.
I think the conversation should be. I would.
But you can't be here legally if you're part of a gang.
I would focus on these words from Donald Trump. Homegrowns are next. Trump hopes to deport and jail U.S. citizens abroad. That, to me, is more something that everybody should be debating and asking why the hell would he say that, as opposed to this.
Yo, you break the
case.
law, man. Hey, man, sometimes you got to go to San Quentin. Sometimes you got to go to El Salvador.
LOL.
No.
No.
So fucking
Send him to
epic,
Greenland.
dude.
Send him to Greenland.
No, I mean, no. And I thought about this when I heard him say it. Will that deter people from committing crimes? Like when you know the consequences and penalties are up here.
Yo, son,
but also too, why are we wiping our ass with the Constitution?
You got to look into El Salvador. El Salvador was the most murderous and dangerous place in the Western Hemisphere. It is now the safest place in the Western Hemisphere because they started locking up these fucking criminals that are terrorizing normal, hardworking people's lives. And if you ask the people over there if they appreciate that effort, they are incredibly.
Where are the Americans? Where are the Americans that had this quote all the time? Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. This is the same argument for shit like the Patriot Act. It was dangerous, and then the guy became an authoritarian dictator, started locking everything. I don't know, to be fair, 100% what's going on over there. Also, I don't know if this is a hot take or not. Personally, I don't even have a strong opinion about the El Salvadoran president insofar as the statements he's made in the U.S. I don't actually know if that guy is a fucking retard or if he's a crazy dictator authoritarian guy. He could just be saying shit here because he knows that Donald Trump is a fucking lunatic and he knows he has to suck Donald Trump's dick. Otherwise, he's going to be in Donald Trump's eyes. It could be that the guy thinks that Trump is crazy or doesn't necessarily agree with shit or whatever. It wouldn't surprise me if he would literally bend over and do whatever the fuck he has to for Trump, because if you don't, then your whole country could get fucked anyway. So I don't even have strong opinions on the... I don't have strong opinions on that guy anyway. He could be a horrible guy, just I don't know, but...
Hardworking people's lives. And if you ask the people over there if they appreciate that effort, they are incredibly grateful because they were held hostage by those criminal organizations.
Sure, but what does that got to do with sending American citizens over there to
They seem to know what to do with them. Yo, if you
I hope you're being hype about it.
I like people who obey the law.
But we have prisons here.
What, bro? We do, don't we?
More. Lock them up. Law. If you
I hope you're being hype about it.
I like people who obey the law.
But we have prisons here.
We need more. Lock them up. Lock them up.
I think we need taxpayers.
If you spend more than 15 seconds at the milk bar, at the coffee shop, you're going to El Salvador. Shout out Scott Jennings. Put that into effect now.
We need taxpayers to pay their fair share of taxes. Well, we need these corporations to pay their fair share of taxes so we have more resources to put in our communities to try to keep people from being criminals.
Yo, why do criminals get to see with their families when they killed somebody and that person never gets to see their family again?
I'm with you.
If you kill somebody...
But there's a difference between criminals and murderers, man.
Has this guy killed anybody? Are we even fucking talking about that? What the fuck are we talking about at all right now? Hello? What?
Yeah, that's true. But if you're deemed a murderer and you murder somebody, they don't get to see their family for the rest of their life, but you get visitations every fucking week. Fuck you. You locked up in El Salvador. I don't give a fuck. Why are we not worried about the people's family?
Why El Salvador?
That shit sounds good.
Bro, Staten Island is right there.
I don't want to put that in those nice people with Staten Island.
So fucking retarded,
You murder
dude.
somebody.
Hey, San Quentin.
They're like, people just have no God, Americans, bro. Holy shit. It's actually so fucking retarded. How quickly did we go from the people of we need fucking our liberty and don't lock up a single innocent person and blah, blah. Like, where are these motherfuckers when it comes to guns? right? Remember all the bleeding heart liberals? I don't want my kid to get shot at school. Like, boohoo, bitch, buy a fucking bulletproof backpack for me if you love him so much, right? These guys are like, yeah, don't touch my fucking guns. Maybe some people die, but it's my goddamn right to own any fucking, if I want to have a fully automatic 250 round fucking dildo machine, 500, 1,000 bullets per second, child seeking bullet rifle, that's my God-given right as an American citizen. I don't give a fuck how many people die or who gets hurt or what's happening. I think that's my right. What about due process? Due process? What about do El Salvador? Do you want to go on a plane to another fucking country and get the fuck out of here? Like, come on. Have some consistency. Just a little bit. A tiny little bit.
Where the fuck is that at?
Cali.
San Quentin ain't no joke. Rikers ain't no motherfucking joke.
Yeah, but Rikers is not a prison.
Anywhere you can get butt.
It's a jail. It's not. What?
Rikers is a prison.
Not jail.
No, it's a jail.
It's like
you still don't want to be there.
No, you don't want to be in any jail.
Like people get killed in
But you
Rikers.
should have thought about that before you murdered somebody.
I am 100% with you.
Yo, you kill people, you're out of here, bro. China.
I wonder why El Salvador.
Send him to
I wonder
China,
why he
bro.
feel like as many prisons in America. Why does he feel like they got to go to El Salvador?
No, it's because El Salvador, because of the rampant crime and the terroristic activity of the cartels out there, they had a stranglehold over the people of the country. In order to rebuke that, they created these massive jail facilities. So they're housing all these people there, and they become incredibly proficient at it. So they're basically, it's almost like outsourcing manufacturing. Instead of making iPhones,
So now outsourcing is good. Oh my God. He's about to give a comparison to outsourcing parts of your supply chain to talk about how it can make your country a better place. And we'll apply that logic to prisons, but we won't apply that logic to the actual economy? This has to be a fucking meme, dude. I'm crazy. I'm in a fucking padded cell somewhere, and there's a bunch of people watching me laughing because I'm actually just a crazy person. I have to be. This has to be a fucking troll. This has to be some just wild troll shit right now. This is some Russian psyops shit. There's no way this is real.
Going to send our criminals over to these massive jail facilities. So they're housing all these people there, and they become incredibly proficient at it. So they're basically, it's almost like outsourcing manufacturing. Instead of making iPhones, we're going to send our criminals over there.
You know what's ruining prisons in America? Social media.
Why? Because they're out there posting and shit?
Yes, you got all of these prisoners that looking like they having a good ass motherfucking time. We grew up on it. We grew up on sodomy. It's true. We grew up on.
That just sounds
We grew up thinking that if you in prison, you getting butt.
That was a good deterrent.
Why do you think they called it scared straight? They would scare you.
They
They scare you.
You're right.
You want to stay straight? You want to stay straight?
Yeah.
Keep your ass out of prison. Because if you go to motherfucking prison, they're going to make you a little crooked.
Oh, they're going to make you very crooked.
What was that shit you say?
I don't know.
You got to, I'm going to do it and you got to decide whether it's, what did you say? What would you say? You had to decide whether it's, pay some bills, Tim. Let's pay this bill and do some asking. Listen, the callbacks. Listen, there's nothing wrong with callbacks.
Oh, callbacks are beautiful.
Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Fantastic.
This is comedy.
That's right.
This is called comedy.
Right. Callbacks are great. What we got for some Asking Idiots, Taylor Gang? Taylor Gang. Taylor Hayes, Patrick's mama, PJ's mama. Mr. _A says, if you could control any animal species, what would it be and why?
What a place, man. The U.S. of motherfucking A. Ice wheel, grease, lightning, fire, eel, axe, sun, clay, scrap, the volcano, glaze, drop, banana peel, kiln, and cut. There's like places that you do like pottery at or some bullshit. A kiln, a wheel, I thought I said something else. Maybe not. Hold on. Oh, we're going to cut something. We're going to scrap it. We're going to drop it. We're going to axe it. Let's get rid of this. Cancel. Fire, clay, wheel, and kiln. Something to do with pottery, maybe? Fuck. Okay, you can ice something, you can glaze something, you can grease something, and you can... Fuck me. Fire something? Kiln? Wheel it? Clay it? Ice, glaze... Grease? No. Fire, clay, wheel, kiln. I'm one off. Wheel. Kiln. A fire. Clay. Is it called like a fucking volcano? No. Bro, I'm never getting this. Wasted guess. Fuck, not even one off. Is it the wheel part that's not right? Oh no, that would have... An eel? Is that a thing? A glaze? Things with mushy insides? A banana peel? A volcano? I don't know, no. Things that come from clouds? Ice, lightning, the sun? This has to be a thing. You can ice something, you can glaze something, you can grease something, and you can... It's not clay. Fire something? No. Eel it, wheel it, banana peel it, lightning it? You can sun it? Is that a real thing? No. Fuck me, dude. I'm fucked. It's over. It's all over. Are these like punishments from God or something? Fire, volcano, lightning, ice. Oh my God, hold on. Hugest brain idea ever, and this is not right. Things that can make electricity. An eel, an electric eel. Okay, lightning. The wheel, don't you spin something around like a magnet or some bullshit and you make electricity? And a kiln, can a kiln make electricity? Grease, clay. Fire kind of can. There we go. Yes! Get me out of here. Fuck this. Seen in a pottery studio. Oh, what is glaze? I'm thinking like frosting. Is that it? Maybe that's the thing you do? Okay. Things that are slippery. Banana peel, eel, grease, and ice. Okay. And natural producers of heat. Fire, lightning, sun, and volcano, I guess. Okay. Good one. If I get a 950 or better, I'm debating Donald Trump this year. 1, 2, 2, 2. Fuck! It's never happening. Ripperino, don't die, be careful.